Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Party Makes Things Worse Song of the Reliquary. This is episode 15? Something like that, the Precession. We are well underway here. I am just about to recap. You know what? I'm going to recap first because we're going to open our character facts this week as everybody telling us, refreshing our minds on what these characters look like. Has it changed at all? Do they look the same? Do they look different? Do they carry any scars? What does their new equipment look like? We did a little bit of magic item shuffle beforehand, and I'm sure we're going to kind of continue to do that. So a little bit of lemon law here. If you would have attuned to something during this rest, you can go ahead. If later you say, I shouldn't have attuned to that, I'm not going to bother, and you want to switch to something else, that's totally fine. The notable items, just to go over very quickly, that require attunement. Veda the Hound does not require attunement. Veda just selects whoever it is that is their sort of caretaker at any given point. So the items that would require attunement: the Piper's Reach, the Slip Drive, the Barrier Tattoo, the Shackle, which we don't have yet. You have to pick that up from Fitzpatrick at some point. The Witch's Crown, and the Medic's Mask all require attunement. So if you want to take one of those, that's fine. It's just you're going to have to attune to it. And I don't know if anybody's particularly interested in any of those over others. So last time, the party, having dealt with the Viscount Faraday Malaran and our survivors having survived their sort of wiles, you all began delving back into the surgery. There was a celebration happening around you that the party didn't seem quite able to attach themselves to. Too active were they in thinking of what was supposed to come next, what might. You grabbed your dragonborn ally, Corvain Vemelide, pulled him aside, and began to seek his assistance, given that he is kind of a researcher, more so than the bulk of you are. Corvain did recognize the two portraits that you showed him. The first, he said, was a portrait of Relgar Orain, Blade Master to Balyar Deathwoken. So a very long time ago, when the War of Principles was at its height, he was essentially the personal defender to the Emperor's throne. If the Emperor needed to duel somebody for their slight, they would send Relgar Orain instead of going themselves. I also misspoke very slightly. They also recognized what's the name of that lady? Perona Vane. Perona Vane, they said, was a spy for Relgar, for Balyar Deathwoken. An assassin. I misspoke. They were the sort of like Master of Crows, like assassin lead of Balyar's at the time. They were the head assassin for his like personal group. And they also went missing in the War of Principles just after Relgar Orain did. Relgar did at the Battle of Materan Forest. 5 years later, Perona went missing as well. And then you don't know about Tagor Brightfall, who you know is the third member. You entered into the surgery and started looking around. Specifically, you went to two bodies trapped in thorns that you had seen earlier. You discovered that those thorns were a rare, extremely deadly plant called bloodvine, that in the presence of blood grows at a terrible, lethal rate and will grow into people's veins and kill them as they are sort of split apart by the plant. You, upon further inspection, discovered that an elf looking to bear some signs of being a druid had tackled a human down to the ground with this plant sort of seated in their own chest. That other human held something above their head, which you quickly figured out to be the bow that you found, the Piper's Reach, which means this was, by all accounts, seemingly the assassination of Perona Vane in her own fortress. It seems that she was tackled to the ground and killed by this plant, but not before she could throw her hand up in the air and save the bow, which in effect was to save herself. You then looked at the three statues in the room. One was the familiar form of Zariak the Seer, a wizard who you saved from the heart of a bastion not that long ago. A little bit of fire damage, a couple of wisdom saves, and some shenanigans later, you discovered that the druidic kind of statue with these antlers growing from its head you could not make contact with, but the cleric, this fire Goliath, you could. Harold managed to make connection with this cleric of Farl Kant and managed to sort of break this figure out of their reverie. They are now banging on the inside of their prison, and hopefully you'll be able to go find them soon. You found the key to the ship, discovering that it was just sort of some element of the body of the Viscount, which means by nature of having the Viscount's body, you also have the ship. You told Corvain about the research, about those journals. He read the last section aloud, showing this sort of very religious, kind of ecstatic passage that made reference to the Piper and to the Chorus. The Chorus being this group that made some sacrifice that is finally vindicated by your all's arrival. You're not sure what all of that means. You had a brief chat with Zariak just to make sure that he wasn't secretly evil. Discovered that druid was a famous figure from history named Sorvin, who supposedly held the Deathwoken at bay for a few hundred years during the time before and during the War of Principles, before being taken by the Vemeral. Just after that, Beige went topside to start spreading the news. Rolled extremely well, and word has spread that you all have slain the witch and the Viscount and opened passage to the deeper parts of the Reliquary. You met up with L43, and after a little bit of chit-chat, collected your bounty and paid L43 to go paint your logo on the main sail of the ship from Edifice. Which also will say will constitute, you had mentioned you wanted to do this and we just forgot to circle back. L43 also sort of signs whatever clerical documents they need to. L43 declares you the owners of that ship by virtue of you having the key. If the Viscount is dead, who would it go to other than whomever has the key? You also managed to get a little bit of extra information. L43 is about to go down below, and you know that they are going to that sort of large central cathedral. You got a little bit of a download on the various gods who you saw depicted in stained glass around your area, specifically Toyev Astrik, the elven god of the hunt in the deep green, those woods that no mortal flesh has touched. One that made Spencer laugh, Pelaranicus, the Azure Storm, the lower god of storms, a blue dragon, and Faril Kant, the first giant, and then finally Halcyon, the great, the lower spirit of peace. You got that download while you made a little bit of a pact with Orax Solden, the leader of the Mages of Remgastelon. Boy howdy, we are deep in the lore forest on this one. And then finally we closed on you all heading to bed. We watched as Corvain continued his translations. We watched our survivors sneak onto the ship. We watched Surat tirelessly scouring a sort of wizard's, what for all the world looks like a wizard's tower, to find information about the hammer and their connection to it. And then finally, and I did roll the checks off screen, we saw Calhoun Miller, the old adventurer in the sort of Model T with the cannon mounted to the back, find a sword, the last unaccounted for Vemeral weapon, assumably the blade of Relgar Orain, his shield no doubt nearby, and under his breath said, "One last adventure," and reached out to grab it, believing foolishly or maybe smartly that he could tank whatever it would dish out to him. I have rolled those checks. We will see what the result of that was. And with all of that, just a cool 10-minute preamble before we start, I will say let's go around the horn. Everybody go ahead and tell me what your characters look like now. You've been underground for, if my count is right, which it might be wrong, I have yet to go through and really listen for little time gaps. I think it has been since you left Bastion, the better part of a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. I believe it has been about a week of just being in the dark down here. At least I know it's been about 6 long rests of doing a little bit of adventuring, fighting some things, resting, going up top, contacting, resting, and sort of that cycle. I might be off by a few days, but well, it's not like they show you every time in the Mummy movies when they're like, all right, stop, they have to go to the bathroom, someone's getting sleepy, they have to get food. We don't we can hand wave it a little bit. So who would like to go first and describe a little bit of what their character currently looks like and know any like major changes that may have occurred?
I'll go first for Harold, because I think that Harold is going to be a little boring. And it's that Harold looks ostensibly the same. He's clean shaven, he has close cropped hair. The hair's grown out, infinitesimally, but he's shaved. Every time we have a down period, he goes back up to those pools that we've made into a spa and uses the water to shave off, whatever trimmings of a beard he has. He keeps himself clean. He goes through that chamber to prestidigitate himself clean whenever he gets the chance. And his armor specifically cannot rust or dent or change in really any way. So his armor is perfect. It's immaculate. The same as when he first got here. In a way, Harold's unchanging appearance would probably be intimidating to the people of this area who are living in dirt and the dark, and see the same looking, like, same giant man, exactly the same.
Clean shaven, no less.
Yeah, the real change that you see is his eyes are wider, because he's been in the dark for so long. He's been opening them wider to be able to see. So it's really like a piercing gaze when he looks around a room, and that's it.
I will say the only other major change we have is that Harold does now wield a gigantic maul, like a huge two-handed hammer that he got from the first Bastille that you encountered, the Oracle. So that is
which is also
change.
Magical, and so won't break or tarnish or anything. So that is the major change, is the weapon and the eyes, and that's it.
Harold, absolutely stable. All right, who's up next?
I'll go.
All right, Hilver.
So I guess like Hilver's got like his kind of like grayish marble kind of asthma skin and like these jade eyes, and his hair is like black with like a faint blue glow to it. But everything like within this area, like I think kind of like starting when we first entered the Deathwoken area, his kind of like the distinct coloration of his body's kind of just gotten a little like more like washed out and bleached. So he doesn't have as much of like that kind of like glow or luster that he used to. And especially with, I guess, the current long rest, integrating the medic's mask into his own like kind of like way of mercy mask that had like this like sort of like cosmic look to it with like a little bit of like eye holes to it. He kind of like adds that underneath and kind of like keeps like the dents of it and stuff like a little bit more balanced on the medic mask that is working to, I guess, give him a little bit more breathing room as he has both of them on.
So you've sort of integrated the two masks to some degree to make both a little bit functional. Yeah, that medic mask, that iron mask that you found in the surgery just a scant day ago now, day and a half maybe. So it certainly had a minute to sort of deal and ponder with it. I do wonder what it is like for Hilver to now understand every bit of language he overhears. The mask makes it so that you are incredible at medicine, you essentially cannot fail, and it makes it so that you understand any spoken only. You will be understood. Sort of, there's a monk ability, or there used to be, that did that, right? Like the tongue of moon and stars or something.
Yeah, I don't think the new one has that.
Yeah, that's because the ability didn't make any sense, but it is fun, I suppose. But it's interesting to think of what it would be like to walk down the street and understand everybody, even in the sort of strange mix that you have here. All right, who's up next?
I'll go.
All right, Lemon.
So Lemon the Goblin is a little bit more yellow now. The joke is Lemon's not a goblin.
Okay.
So Lemon is... from the outward, it's interesting because the main thing with Lemon is he has his cape of billowing, which kind of enwraps everything.
That's fair.
That thing is magical. It is in perfect condition still. So if you were just to look on surface level, he's pretty much the same. If you go a little bit deeper, his gear, it's dirty, it's grimy, it's nicked. He is not kept great condition of the underclothes, but what does stand out is his hand wrappings, because he's the gunman. He takes immaculate care of his hands. That is his weapon. And so he changes his hand wrappings. He cleans his hand wrappings every night before bed, so they are a crisp white on the background of this dark cave.
Oh, so that's fun. So sort of in amongst all of this soot and dirt and caked on blood at this point, you have these immaculate hand wraps because Lemon is our sort of distance shooter here. He really can't afford to have it any other kind of way.
And he cleans his hands, the wrappings, all that. His face is matted with dirt and grime. He doesn't shave.
The other thing I love about that is because Lemon uses revolvers. That means by the end of every day, those hand wraps are soot stained, like along the sides, and then he changes them. That's very fun. Anything else?
The other thing is because this is a really different environment than he's used to being by the lake all the time. So he is noticeably dehydrated.
Not Lemon, just being real dry.
He is very dry. He's used to daily swims in the lake.
Absolutely terrible.
I could see Lemon and Harold doing their rituals. Harold doing his shaving routine, you cleaning your hand wraps every night, and that being like a 15 to 30 minute, conversation period for the two of us over the course of this last week.
It's done in silence, side by side, every time.
Yeah, I mean that too, most of the time.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I can't imagine you were big chatterboxes after that first day where we had like 7 combats in a row. I have to imagine you were a little bit just silent and then sleep and then wake up the next day and chat.
It was nice to have somebody there in this scary ass dark place to be like somebody else is also in the room with you, so it was comforting, and we've kept that up.
All right, go for Beach.
All right. So, shockingly enough, Beach is still hot and also sexy, but in the way where, like, when someone gets dirty and somehow there's even hotter?
No, it's not possible.
Yeah, like rugged, like, ooh, you know what I mean?
You wipe some grease off your brow.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm trying to think, like Winter Soldier, how he's all messed up, but he's just rugged, handsome, you know what I mean?
It's just working even better.
It's like, wow, it really works for him. And I will say, wait, I do have a question before I go on.
Yes.
The mask that came with the sensor, do we still have that?
Yeah, Hilver has that right.
Oh,
that is that same thing?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what
We still have
Hilver
the
has
witch
on.
one too. Though.
Okay, awesome.
Oh yeah, and then you have the witch's headband is the other piece that's kicking.
Okay, so Beej definitely had some sort of charm, I don't know what it would be, to keep his hair in place and nice and looking good. He cannot grow a beard, so there's no worry for that. He simply does not grow one. But now he's kind of like, since, he's had to use so much magical abilities and power, fighting for his life, he's kind of let that go, so his hair is like tousled and like dirty. But he's very used to this like vagabond lifestyle, so like it's not anything new for him. Maybe there's like a rip in his shirt, but he leaves it there so you can like see his chest,
Fair enough.
But most importantly, I would say he has a dog with him that's very scary and not a dog. And he will continue to wear, I think, the witch's head on his body somewhere. Maybe his hip, strap it there. Also, I think that now he's started to use his flying shoes, now that he remembers that he has them, when he is in, like, large areas of people. So, like, an intimidating, like, rugged, hot, also sexy, a little bit dirty, shirt ripped, flying, his bounty on his hip. You know what I mean?
Really,
The bounty on the
really
hip,
got some stuff going on here.
the bounty on the hip, I gotta say, I think would probably detract from the handsome and sexy.
No, trust me,
Hot
it
and
works.
sexy. Yeah,
But that's the thing, though. We know numerically that it does work. So that's up to your imagination. You
know
explain
what?
to me how it works. I don't know.
it makes sense because we're in the company of a bunch of adventurers and like rogues and vagabonds. They would see that and think that's badass. If we went into town, people would be like, "What the fuck?"
No,
and they
but
wouldn't
also
think
it's
that.
like,
But
oh
here
my
it
god,
works.
like he'll kill for me. You know what I mean?
You know what it's like?
He'll
This
kill
is,
He's
for me
so
and then
mysterious and
keep their teeth on a
dangerous.
chain.
He's so dangerous.
this is not a
works
joke.
here.
When they design shoes for like professional runners, they design them purposefully to be like kind of ugly, to come in like really clashing colors that don't really work and with like really strange patterns, because there is supposed this like mental, what they're going for in marketing, I just read about this, is that like they're trying to let you signal that all you care about is performance, and so they purposefully make the shoes like a little uglier so that you can really send it. Another fun story about this, when they made Red Bull for the first time ever, so when you make a drink, you have to like go and send it to be taste tested, and then it comes back and they like give you the download. When they sent Red Bull, what they got back was, "This is the most disgusting drink we've ever had, throw this away, you need to fix this." And they went, "Perfect, that's exactly what we want it to taste like medicine." And so that's why Red Bull tastes I would say, in my opinion, Red Bull tastes bad. You might be used to Red Bull, but it doesn't taste good, and it's on purpose. All right, cool. So I think we've got a lot of really fun kind of swirling there. So I'm going to ask where we kind of pick things up here. So we closed on that scene that obviously none of us are privy to, of Calhoun Miller grabbing the blade of that sword. Hopefully, the best case scenario is he failed the wisdom check right at the beginning and dropped it, and then didn't try again. The second best case scenario is he managed to pick it up and died to a bunch of force damage. The worst case scenario is that damn idiot managed to attune to it, and you got real problems kicking around down here somewhere.
And we still don't know about
The rots.
the freak guys, right?
I don't know.
The
I
little
thought
freaks.
yes, that is true. I have to be honest. You made it sound like last time you were going to go on the ship, and so that's why I narrated your survivors going on the ship, and then you didn't go on. So I have no idea what's going on with that plot line anymore. I assume it's off in the weeds somewhere. You'll probably run into Sarat before you run into them at this point, because you are kind of back down below. So I will say, as we kind of see each of those characters sleeping around the temple at this night, this sort of dull amber glow, a little bit more blue from some sides, different colors depending on which of these stained glass reliefs you are closer to. As you all begin to stir from your rest, having taken, watches here and there, I'm going to just kind of hand it over to you. What are we getting into as a new day dawns, as far as you all are concerned? Even though, for the record, I think you're waking up at like 7 p.m. because your guys' circadian rhythm is out the window, is completely gone. You've been down in the dark for who knows how long now. Just to narrate one more time where we are, as you all sort of step out of the temple, as this building is sort of named here, you are in this massive underground atrium. You know that you are basically in a place that is burrowed into the side of a canyon. It opens into this massive, huge, tunneling oval atrium with buildings carved into the walls, spiraling up in several platforms that make their way all the way to the top. One of them is this park that is suspended, literally with trees and water and all kinds of things, that is suspended above the center. In other corners, there is what you now know as the surgery. There is the archive, these places, these big facades that if you open the double doors and go in, it spirals off deeper into the ground beneath the desert, taking you to many, who knows how far some of these things go, into different facilities, places, and locations. And at the bottom is what we have sort of tentatively titled the cathedral, this massive dark stone arched building that L43 is going to be going down into sometime today. That's our situation kind of as it stands. What are people doing as you guys get ready to continue your adventure, such as it were?
Harold is going to be donning his armor, and as he does, he's going to talk to the group. So we got a bead on a couple options, right? We can go meet Elforth down in the cathedral, maybe help him out because he gave us some intel. We could take the money and run. I think that's a bad idea. Or we can just continue this one I think kind of ties into the first one, which is we keep going deeper. We meet up with Elforth at the bottom, and as we progress, we listen in for that the cleric, the statue we saw, that cleric. He's trapped somewhere. We can probably let him out and try and talk to him. So I think that's my vote. Is we go down for Elforth, and we along the way listen for somebody banging against a wall. Any other things that I'm missing that we should keep our eyes peeled for? And plus, the two other weapons of the Vemeral, which we're generally going to be keeping an eye out. Is there anything else?
Well, I guess like the upside about the following Elforth would be that like for Beach's debt, it seemed like from what you guys said, Elforth has got like one goal in mind. So any kind of like extraneous like wealth along that way might be up for grabs.
True. We could consider getting a larger party together from the mages, from the random hangers-on, to progress down. If we were more interested in just clearing quickly, we could say like, we're going to take 50 people down. Every 100 meters deeper we get, we're going to leave a team of 10 behind, and then just try and get down with people covering us. But that would also kind of give up some of that treasure.
Yeah, so before we open up other options, I'll just say mechanically what you're talking about, right? You're talking about making some perception checks to listen out for that distant knocking. That is sort of number one. Number two, the difference between your two plans. If you're going to just wait for L43, you can make your way to the bottom, wait for L43 to appear, and then accompany them down below. L43 is not a friendly combatant in kind of any meaningful way. They have a mission. They are going to go to the mission, complete it, and then leave. So you can just sort of travel in their wake as they go ahead of you. Option 2 is what you described out, trying to like organize a team to go down. That's going to manifest itself as a skill challenge, as you will essentially be at the front of a battle. Because we've kept kind of having this happen. Every time a new wall is breached, every time a door goes down, there is this massive explosion of carnage. These creatures defend every inch of ground as well as they can until they are sent into retreat, and then they scurry off into the walls and are gone. And then ambushes happen. You have to deal with the sort of guerrilla tactics that follow, as continuously you will have these flares of combat as they try to push people back up and out of areas. You would have learned by now, the security tier way up at the top, the topmost part, the survivors, the adventurers there have been pushed out. That is back to being under the control of these creatures. You had sort of vaguely got a hint that something had happened up there, but that is already underway. That is being held. So you would I would ask each of you what you're doing to support the movement downwards, and depending on how well you did would basically be how many people make it to the bottom.
And option number 3, which I haven't pitched yet, is we steal the treasure out from under Elforth, and we get the thing that he's after, and we get out of Dodge before they get it. We don't know what it is. We don't know how dangerous it is, and we don't know why Elforth wants. Yeah. It's not a good idea, but it's an idea, and I wanted to bring it up.
I have a pretty important character question I think we need to ask before we get too much further along here, because we're kind of in this adventure, and we're getting to the point where past the halfway point, we're approaching like the 2/3. You guys are really moving. I don't control the throttle, you do. What happens when Harold and Beige have their money, but Lemon doesn't have their shield, and Hilver doesn't have their answers? So like right now, you have +1 weapons, you have the ship, you have the Viscount's body, you have all the gold you've made so far, and all those other various magical items, including like the giant green crystal that you know nothing about. You have no idea what that thing is. With all of that, Harold and Beige, I'll be candid, if you manage to get like good, fair prices for everything, you're done now. That's not going to happen. You're going to have to like find people to buy these things. You're not going to get full value. The ship, you'll be extremely lucky to get a quarter of its value because it is stolen from Edifice. It is like the hottest property anything could ever be. So it's going to be like, so what happens when Harold and Beej have what they need and Lemon and Hilver don't?
Harold won't leave because he knows that this place is too dangerous. Regardless of the deal he struck with everybody else, he's not going to go because the Vemeral getting out would be terrible. So he's not going to leave until the issue is dealt with.
Okay.
And that's clearing this place out until it's done. Beyond that, he did tell Lemon he would help, and Hilver he would help. Like, he won't go back on his word. That's Harold, though. Beej is Beej's own person. So that's up to Beej what Beej does.
Yeah, so what's going through Beej's head?
Beej wouldn't leave without Harold. Simply.
There we go.
I think maybe Beej would consider, like, based on his reasons, which I guess the party doesn't really know at this point, for being here. Only that he owes a ton of money. So based on his reasons, he would want to get out as fast as he could, but he would never leave without Harold. He would never leave.
Because of that, Harold knows we need to get out quick. So Harold is of the mind we should do option 2, which is get everybody formatted or information, and then down to go through, get everything cleared out, get everybody on the same page about the weapons, don't touch them, and then get out of here with that solved, Elforth helped, the entire place done. So that's his vote, and that's why, to get Beej out quick.
Okay.
So I guess if we go that way, then we'd kind of like negotiate like a smaller cut of any sort of wealth we find while we're clearing it with the rest of the caravan.
Yeah. And we've already got, like, Harold and Beej already have enough basically in pocket. So taking a smaller cut does not matter anymore. Harold's not in it to get rich, just to pay off.
To be secure in what you want to do, you guys do need to find a little bit more, but like not much. You guys really are
portion's
kind of
fine
up in the space.
And if we can like get those like little way stations like you suggested going, then they might be able to report back to us if they hear the banging or encounter any sorts of like shield-like devices too.
Yeah. Really, the job would be getting everybody into groups that can function well. Get a mage in each group, get somebody that might have some healing ability in each group, or medical training, stuff like that, and then get them going into teams of 5, 6, 10, whatever, so we can hold floors.
Yeah, and it helps that, again, that you have this sort of like incredibly heavily fortified base. Like, for all that this is just a small room with like a little altar in the center, remember it has like a big like DC 20 vault door that Bartholomew, who unfortunately cannot join us and may not be joining us for a few episodes, we'll kind of have to see, we're kind of playing it by ear, is basically having to like re-pick that lock every time you guys come through, unless you leave somebody inside, which so far has been the method, is you've just always had someone inside to open the door. Okay, so then I'll sort of hand the scene back to you guys. What is the party thinking about what they should do next, about where to go? You have these many places you have yet to explore. Far down below, you have no idea what could be down there. What are you thinking?
Y'all know my vote.
Yeah, I don't love the idea of Sharon, but it does sound like the quickest and safest, sadly. We can't reserve stuff because that sounds bad.
We can. We certainly can. I'm going to be up in the front. The person up in the front gets to pick the things we keep. So I'll look out for your barrier. I'll look out for the things we need, and we'll lay that down. We need this much gold. We need these few items, and then it'll be an even pick between everybody else. The mages get the books. We get those items. Everybody else can split up the gold, 70% of the gold, whatever.
Yeah, and you already worked out with Orax. Orax even said you can go to the archive if you want to. It's just if you find a book about necromancy, Orax, Solden, and the Mages of Remgastelon get the first grab. They get to look through and see if any of it is what they are looking for, because they haven't found what they're looking for in the archive yet.
And if one of the townies say that they want, like, oh, I'm looking for a circlet of whatever, I don't care. Take the circlet of whatever. Like, if you got a claim to make, take it. That's fine.
Did El say he was leaving after he gets this thing?
Yeah, L4 is done after he gets.
Yeah,
the
L4 said they were leaving and showed, because you rolled very high, they have a train ticket. And so literally, once they pick up the item they're here for, L43 is gone. They are going to use their next action to disappear and reappear on the train.
Okay. Dang.
So that is going to be a very sudden exit. If you're in the middle of a fight, it doesn't matter. If L43 gets what they're there for, they're gone.
Yeah. Dang. He'd be a great one to talk to. Everyone, to make it so it's not known to everyone. Or if anyone has private things that they lay claim to, it'd be good to have him as like ledger and item keeper.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be good, but he's going to be beelining it. How many hours do we have before Elforth goes off?
You guys don't actually know.
He said, very shortly, I'll be going.
Yeah,
so,
Elforth, going off of the, tone... Actually, you know what? There's rules to the game. Anybody who would like to, who is present for the conversation, can make an insight check to see if they gathered any additional details from the tone L4 used, or some of the, things that they said. Also, take a moment, if you're going
15.
to sort of get a group together, think about what you want to take care of before you leave. Is anybody going to check in with Corvain? Are you looking for any of your specific allies that are around, right? What all is entailed in that? Anybody get higher than a 15 that was present for the conversation? So I think Beige or Hilver, you could make the check, because you were both there towards the end.
I don't think I was there.
Oh, yeah, you weren't there until, the very, very end.
Yeah.
Beach. What did you roll?
They're headed towards
I think the online dice rollers.
Ooh, 18!
18,
wow.
okay. So 15, 15, 18. I'll say with that kind of spread, L43's tone read to you as, I'll be heading down shortly. Now that there is a path, seemed to be the implication. So you get the feeling that L43 is waiting for somebody else to open a door that they think, basically in the risk analysis of their head, that it just hasn't tipped into the safest thing is now for me to go get it. Right now, the safest thing to do is to wait for somebody else to open a door that is probably dangerous to open.
Probably be us.
Yeah, it's going to be us.
Yeah, so especially with that 18 and talking it out, odds are L43 is also thinking, I'm sure at some point one of these groups will open the door and fight a bunch of very deadly things, and then I will move.
Maybe that's why he told you guys the location of where he's going, so that we go there first with curiosity.
Yeah, we said, if we know where you're going, we might be able to help. And he said, good point. And then he gave us the information. Okay, so we should go talk to the group leaders, get the plan in motion, and as soon as we set off, Elforth is going to be behind us, running in after we clear most of the threat out. All right, who wants to talk to who? Most powerful group that we could talk to would probably be the wizard, so Beej, you should cover that.
Yeah, let me get out my cards here so that we know who is sort of still out on the table. So the answer to that a little while ago would have been the Viscount Faraday Miller, and he's dead. You don't know if the crew of their ship is in any way active anymore. If they are in any way pursuing treasure, you watched them flee the ship, but that's all you saw. You don't know if they are active in any way. The Arcanist Orax Soldan is the head mage of Remgastelon here. Of course, you haven't seen them in quite a while, although you know they're down here somewhere, and assumably at some point they are going to want to reunite with Calroy Elmruth. Renault Galler, Captain Gust, is the captain of the Ghostwalker, which is what you the Sea Spray, or whatever that thing's name was. That ship is somebody that you need to go speak to. And then the only other two people that you really knew at all were L43 and Calhoun Miller. And nobody has seen Calhoun in a while, and L43 is behind you. So it's the Arcanist, Renault, and then and I think as far as you are all concerned, that's all there is.
And then there's like the
Question.
general population top side.
Yeah.
Who did we just talk to right before we went to bed? Asking like, is everything good? Is there still alliance?
That was the Arcanist or Exalt.
That was Arcanist. Okay. All right.
Yes, yet again, I gently remind everybody that the comment I said right after the Viscount Faraday Malaran died in their combat was great. I didn't think they'd come back as a recurring villain or major character in any way. You guys really took out kind of one of the big central players here in that combat. That was pretty gnarly. Yeah, so the Arcanist is already very friendly with you. You've had some limited exposure to their immediate entourage. As much as you all are fond of Corvain, you get the feeling that Corvain's not that important. Orax seems to travel mainly with Wisteria Frey, a character you have not interacted with at all. I don't think you've even seen them. And Sable, a Cantonac, although you don't know what that is yet. Basically, they look visually like a very magical animated suit of armor, that those two are always right next to each other. The Arcanist and Sable, you've never seen them apart.
So I think, again, Beej, talk to the Arcanist, make sure that it's known what we're going to be doing. And I'll talk to the general folk up top. If somebody wants to talk to the captain of the Sea Spray, go ahead, just to get them on board as well.
Calroy says, I would like to come along for that if they're alive. I haven't seen them. I assumed they would show up when the levity kind of kicked off at the party, but I didn't see them.
Yeah. Go on. I had a pretty good rapport with the captain.
So Calroy kind of stands up as you guys start to sort of get your bags together. Zariak, a few days in, is now able to take like 8 steps and then sit back down. So Zariak is occasionally standing and moving across the room and then sitting down somewhere else. They're finally like sitting in chairs and things. They actually could cast tongues again to talk to everybody, but they are probably just going to speak to Hilver because they can converse with Hilver openly with that mask attuned if you do need to ask anything of them.
He's gonna love technocracy.
Yeah, I guess I'll tell him, like, it seems like there's 2 other people, like, in Bastilles out there, so hopefully we'll be able to, like, extract them safely and bring them back here. So, I guess you'll maybe have some kind of kindred spirits the next time we return.
Dealing with his original language, you are no longer getting the sort of filtered, translated, magical version. So everybody else begins to hear this like long-form, flowing speech, and Hilver, getting the direct translation, is like, "My fellow comrades, trapped in ions dark and deep, forsooth that freedom will soon be theirs, and the taste of air, even if it be their last, will be the beseeching flavor of their next day." And you're like, I think that's positive. Just sort of nodding along. The equivalent of you talking to somebody on the street and them starting to sound like a character from the Beowulf poem, you'd be like, yeah, of course. All right, so Beej is going to talk to the mages. Lemon and Calroy are going to go search for the Ghost Walkers and see if they're around somewhere. Harold is going up top to try to talk to the people. You know, L43 is kind of the impromptu, like, statesman of the area. Hilver, do you join in with anybody in particular? What are you up to?
I might kind of do like a scouting mission amongst the wounded from the Viscount's crew.
Sure.
To see if I can like patch up some of them and see if they want to kind of like join some of these other groups that are kind of around here since they're leaderless now, and kind of try to coax them to join kind of like the expedition downwards to like kind of get some of their own kind of glory free of the Count's kind of tyranny and such.
Interesting. So kind of leaning on that kind of hope that they are going to want to sort of find their own way at least a little bit in this time. Okay, all right. So just 1 second while I check through a couple of last minute things here. I just need to double check a few little note bits and bobbins. Bits and bobbins, Ethan? Okay. So I need to go around, check a couple of note cards. Here's what I'm going to say. It's a little early, but it's not too early. We're going to take our break there. We're going to take a 5. I'll see everybody here at like 8:32, 8:33 or so, and we can pick up there, hopefully getting a little bit more information and getting to know these groups. I guess we are going to really push down below. Who knows? We might be in the closing episodes of the Song of the Reliquary if you guys roll well. We will just have to see. So we will see you all here in about 5 minutes. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Party Makes Things Worse, Song of the Reliquary. I just had to close studio mode on Streamlabs, which I'm still getting a little bit used to. All right, cool. We are all assembled. Nick did manage to make it, so Bartholomew will be present, and it is time to go dish out these scenes while I rip a sheet of paper off so that I can get a new one. So who would like... One of my headphones is deaf. I need to twist my adapter. I have the cheapest little adapter for these headphones. Need a new one pretty bad. They're like $2. I am just lazy. So, who is going first? Who wants to get their conversation out the way?
Oh, not me. I'm doing video stuff.
Okay.
I think we'll do Harold first. He's
right.
got to go just talk to everybody else.
Yes, that's my question. What's your approach there, Harold? So you're trying to talk to the sort of assembled groups. I had narrated last time that you saw a good number of people getting ready to go down below. Some of them are probably already moving around in the various catacombs and corners of this place, but safe to say some of them are still getting ready up top. Are you going to, use thaumaturgy or something to speak to the crowd? Are you looking for whatever quote-unquote leaders they may be to try to get a little counsel? How do you want to get this to go?
I think that it would probably be easiest just to narrate it as one scene instead of him going up to each bigger faction. So he would go up to these milling groups first. I feel like they're about to go out to discuss with them and say, hey, if you hold off 2 hours, we're all going. And we can split the royalty that way. We're going to be safer. And then he'd go topside, do a thaumaturgical, standing on the top of a wagon, shouting, telling everyone what's going on. But he'd do both of those.
Okay, so we see a couple of really rapid fire scenes of Harold making his way around talking. I guess we're going to make a really quick persuasion check just up front. Not even having done anything too much recently, as you sort of make your way around to these groups that are already down here.
25.
25. We see Harold talking to a couple of groups pushing down below, hands trying to sort of narrate how you get them to stop. You find there are two people that are sort of not in charge, but have kind of taken leadership over their respective groups. The first is Tarrant Wishaw, and the second is Oben Sallow. Oben Sallow is seemingly some kind of lizard folk, but with, gills that they seem to not, but they still seem to be able to breathe the air, that has somehow managed to become the kind
vestigial
of
gills.
Impromptu leader of 3 groups that have banded together, having lost many members. You see, way back when you got that initial bounty for the hag, there was a kind of older gentleman who I had narrated being injured up top with a bunch of empty tents around him as if it was one of very few to survive, and you see that he is in amongst this group along as a few others, kind of a ragtag group. You speak to the two of them. Cut me off just a slice. What is Harold proposing to these groups? How does he sell them on his vision of what to do next?
So first he looks at their amassed groups, notices there's different banners, different clothes from various locations, puts together that they've clearly lost some people, and he says, look, we all came here knowing strength in numbers would be our best bet. Most of us thought that was just going to be for the caravan here, but now that we're in it, it's not what we expected. It's insane. It's insane that any of us are still here, so I'm going to assume you all have your own reasons for why you're sitting here still. Hey, stop that! And I say that to the robot dog.
You turn and Veda has a squeaky toy and it's huh?
Veda, quit it!
It's looking just extremely guilty.
But knowing that we all have our own reasons, I see that you've lost people. I get that. So strength in numbers is what we've got to get back to. If you look at my group, God willing, we haven't lost anybody, we're not going to lose anybody. But that's because I put myself in the front. I take the hits. I got knocked out once. I got knocked out more than once. But if we all team up right now, I'll be in the front. I'll keep you guys standing, much as I can. And my team will keep you guys standing. Just wait a couple hours, join up with us, we'll split everything.
All right. And you managed to get both groups to kind of sign on. Obensalo signs off on this, sort of nodding with a kind of grim awareness that they need help if they are going to make it any further than they have so far. The other groups kind of convening together. You see one of them, although you couldn't know it, that take a great deal of heart in this. This is the group that has been feverishly gathering money together to buy a diamond off a merchant up top, because one of their number is dead but not gone just yet. They still have a window, and they will push as hard as they need to get what they need to save their friend. We cut to Harold up top on top of a wagon, like arms wide, giving a very similar speech, laying down that like your group will keep as many of them alive as can be had. Strength in numbers is the only way ahead. And I want you to make a persuasion check with advantage this time, as you kind of got to do like a little test audience for your speech.
Roll 1, I got a natural 20. Let's see if I can get a double nat 20. No, not a nat 20 on the second
I don't even know
nat
what
20,
I would,
though.
I didn't even have anything ready, though, for like what you get if you get 2 nat 20s. You see, I don't, like, the Dragon of the Tomb Desert lands and is like, this guy's cool. I'm in. And you're like, I didn't think, was that a thing that can happen? Spencer downloaded the pay-to-win DLC. All right, cool. You get this kind of raucous cheer coming off of them. Another group sort of beginning to latch on to you, following your words. You see some that are happy to stay above. Those that are going below are happy at the thought of being able to do it with some serious support behind them. All right. Awesome. Was there anything in particular extra you wanted to do before you head back down?
No.
Okay.
I think that's it.
L43 watches in the distance, and you see if there could be a sparkle in their robotic eyes, L43 sees a increasingly gilded opportunity sort of coming to pass in front of them. All right, who would like to take next? Lemon or beige?
Yeah, I'll go. Try and find Captain of the Ghostwalkers.
Yeah, we're going to start with just a perception check. You have advantage because your ally here is going to help you as you try to just find them wherever it is that they are camping in this space down below here. You know you are looking for the captain, Renault Galler. You're looking for Lomac Near, Bosun Renee Mallet, and Malcolm White, and Calroy is with you. So you have advantage as you continue.
Advantage. All right, with advantage, that gives me a 19.
With a 19, in pretty short order, after you spend a little while looking, you end up having to go into, much to your chagrin, as you hear reports of where they were last seen, into the catacombs, those tunnels that seem to be where the skeletons make their nest. You're really not sure what to call it. They seem to retire to those systems of strange carved tunnels, which you all have used now a few times to kind of get out and around these crowds. You, Lemon, and Calroy begin to make your way around, and it is actually from above you, as you are like climbing down one of these tunnels, that you hear, what, there, it's Calroy! It's Calroy! You look up and you see Malcolm is trying to fall as slow as he can. This is the kind of like wild-haired arcanist that was fixing the crystals earlier, is sliding down. And you see that like popping their head out of a side tunnel, you see Renee Mellet, this sort of like very heavily armored bosun that was also on ground, begin to slide their way down. A little while later, you all are in like a little, it's like a 15-foot wide radius room here, so it's like 30 feet from end to end, so it is still pretty tight with like 5 of you all piled into this space, but it seems to be the most comfortable they've been in a while. Calroy regales them with tales of being saved by you all as they kind of wince, looking at what to them look like horrible scars and injuries. He explains something of the great strength and dexterity that he has gained, and that there is something called germs, and that they are a big problem, and that the fewer germs you have, the stronger you are. Is pretty sure how Calroy thinks it works. He's not sure yet, but that's how it's been for him so far. You're kind of swept up in this conversation a little bit, Lemon. As you start to chime in, what do you say as they are kind of all catching up?
Okay. And we have a room that gets rid of all germs.
Really? So what? So they're bugs? And Calroy goes, from what I understand, they seem to be very small bugs. As they are kind of all trying to understand just what the hell's been going on with their friend for these past few days.
Yeah. I'm glad we can get this reunion all together. Calroy's been great. And we're happy that he's okay. I did want to talk to you. The captain's here, correct?
Yeah, the captain is sort of standing
Okay.
towards the back. The captain is the only one that stayed a little bit more quiet. They were obviously excited that Calroy was alive, but they like listened to the story. They just made a chiming joke in about the germs, but is clearly trying to assess. Give me an insight check really quick.
Cool. So that's 19.
The captain likes you all. She is trying to figure out if Calroy is still on her crew. And she is just kind of like squinting through and trying to get a vibe for what is going on here. She just doesn't want to get taken advantage of if Calroy has kind of switched teams. But eventually she relaxes a little bit as she sort of chimes forward and sliding down across this small room. You're all at kind of like this raked angle, having to constantly prop up against one of the walls. And she goes, well, to be perfectly honest, to get out of these catacombs, we would be much appreciated. It has been the safest way to travel, but to be perfectly frank, we spent the large part of 2 days ago lost in them. They go everywhere. But as a result, we have no fucking idea where we're going. So it has been a rather drastic change in luck.
Have y'all seen anything weird in the catacombs? Like, how deep have you guys gotten? I know it's hard to really determine depth while in that.
We arrived, we entered with the larger group, and then quickly sort of moved off to the side, hoping to be able to find our way down below. We're looking for something specific here. She looks to Calroy, and Calroy just kind of like nods. She goes, we're looking for a map. Supposedly, a map. Supposedly the Vemeral had maybe the only complete map of the old arcane empire. Even the empire didn't want there to be easy to access charts of where various temples and towers and things were. We would need to extrapolate somewhat because our work is mostly spent in the oceans. We delve below, mad enough to try, but having some idea of where to look for things would be a grand help, and no other maps have survived. We just figured we'd pop down thinking this was an empty ruin, get the map and leave, and we've been sort of lost ever since. Our first day we spent just going down into the catacombs, as far as seeing strange things. The skeletons seem mostly harmless. We stopped attacking them after the first day. They just walked by us for the most part. Actually, in fact, Malcolm, tell him what you saw. And Malcolm sort of shuffles ahead and goes, I spoke to one of them. I just, for no particular reason, I just wanted to see if it would work. I've done necromancy before, and a little touch of magic, nothing major, and they followed commands. If I channeled just a little bit of magic into them. So effectively what you learn is, if you burn an arcane spell slot, you can issue commands to the skeletons, and they will follow them to some degree. And he goes, so they've honestly been rather peachy, but we found a couple of the other ones. You know, like the creatures with the long limbs and those ones that are all bent around. We were being quiet, thankfully. One of the chambers down here, I don't know, we found it covered in paint. Mud and blood and whatever they could find. They had it covered in paintings, pictures, and they were all singing. And it was, it's a bit odd. But all of a sudden, I couldn't help but remember I was thinking about when I first started learning magic. First got taught it. I was a journeyman on a ship, and the ship's mage, they didn't have cannons, they just had a ship's mage with a spot on the top of the deck, started teaching me, and all of a sudden I remembered there was a man with an accordion on the ship, and he was playing that song. It's the damnedest thing. I had my friends. We checked. It wasn't modifying memory or nothing. I'd heard the song before. Couldn't get it out of my head for the next day. Miserable. But so we started staying away from him because we were afraid it was some magical effect or something. But we've been all the way down. We made it towards that big, scary building with the big flat front with the wind. You know, they're talking about the surgery, and the people down there took a couple of pot shots at us, and so we turned back around upwards, and we haven't found anything else really since.
All right.
We spent the last 2 days looking for you. And he looks over to Calroy and goes, because as far as we knew, you had just been grabbed. We thought you might be alive still or dead. I don't know. And the captain goes, yeah, so that's pretty much been it for us.
All right, well, thank you for the info. We've had a few other people kind of mention the same thing with the song. We don't understand it quite either. We got some people thinking on it, trying to figure it out, but it's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just good. It's good to know somebody else is thinking about it. And then Malcolm pops up and goes, I just don't know how we would have heard it. This place has been sealed up. Why would anybody know that thing? I don't know. Just doesn't make any sense to me. And the captain goes, so I assume this is not a social... I'm using the wrong accent. I assume this is not a social call, Lemon. Thank you for returning Calroy to us. Are we... What are we doing?
So it was a little bit of a social. I was curious how you guys were all doing. Just make sure you're okay.
That's very kind.
But the other part is we are... I think this benefits all, kind of. We are trying to get to the bottom of this labyrinthine hellhole.
Okay.
And we are trying to make parties of 10 or so, give or take, to drop off at each level to kind of hedge our bets, keep the numbers as high as possible, and leave little check zones in case anything does go wrong. The bottom line, we're of course looking for a few things. I'm looking for a shield to protect the town. My compatriots are looking for money and a few other things, but we're really not looking for too much. I just know that I think my thing will be towards the center. So I'm going towards the bottom, and everyone else is everyone here is looking for something. If we're kind of if you need it, grab it. I think that if everyone pulls together, we got a good shot of conquering this area. If a map is what you're after, I don't think a lot of people are going to be after a map.
Lemon, go ahead and make a persuasion check with advantage. I'll say the DC for you is fairly low. You already have these guys as allies. They're already willing to co-sign to some degree.
Alright, that is a 15.
15 will do it. You see the captain goes, honestly, just the chance to actually get a hold of something would be a novel. It's been a bit of a nightmare down here. Yeah, certainly. I mean, I don't... And the rest of them kind of like are nodding along. They're looking a little thin. You could tell that they've been in the walls for probably like 4 or 5 days. They had some rations, they had some water, but like their cheeks are starting to like sallow out a little bit as they have spent so long down here. The captain goes, all right, so we gather together, head down with you all. If you find a map, run it by us first, and we post off somewhere to make sure that nothing else chases you on the way up. Sounds mighty fine to me, and Calroy can fall in as well. I think this is, I think this might work.
Yeah. If you want to follow me, it's not a town by any means, but it's a big grouping. Plus, we have the bathhouse that we've kind of made, and the anti-little bug room that if you guys want to see.
Malcolm White chimes in and goes, my God, you've been busy. As you start to like make your way down and through and out, a couple of them will relieve to wash their faces and eat a full meal as they sit around the dead Viscount's fire, enjoying somewhat finally getting the one over after all of the shenanigans with the fight with the dragon and the captain seemingly... the Viscount seemingly endlessly trying to flee and leave them to take care of the problem. Okay. You do hear them starting to talk as you make your way down, and the captain goes, he was supposed to pay us the other half. Like, and you realize they haven't been paid the other half for getting the Viscount out. And so all of a sudden Malcolm chimes in and goes, we're going to need to take more than the map. So they're sort of starting to wind their way down. All right, great. And now last up on our list here then, Beige, you go to talk to the Arcanist, Orax Solden. I'm in an ocean of note cards over here as I swing around to our various cohort of characters here. You guys are really running the what do you call it? It's like the end of a Mass Effect game. You're really pulling in all those old allies.
We're going for that 100% run.
There you go. Beige, you make your way over towards where they are. You know that they are kind of perpetually working out of the archive. As you approach, their borders have sort of eased a little bit with the Viscount dealt with, and in pretty short order, after you kind of flag somebody down, the Arcanist and Sable appear, and you do see a character you've had described to you, but I don't think seen before. You do finally see Wisteria Frey. You see that they are, surprisingly for how high of a rank they must have, they are not a Dragonborn. They seem to be a half-elf of some kind, a little bit of a point to their ears. They are all sort of arranged as they make their way out to come speak to you. You see the Arcanist in the lead with Sable, this sort of huge suit of animated armor behind them. The Arcanist goes, hello, meeting again so soon, eh?
Beach will clear his throat and rise up with his flying shoes a little bit. Not too much, just a little.
Okay.
And begin a nice, lovely performance that kind of details a very inspiring version of what might happen. And also, he would like to call the song I Walk the Bottom Line by Fantasy Johnny Cash.
Okay, great.
And, yeah, or I Walk with the Line, perhaps. It's a working title.
It's a working title.
Suggestions are always accepted.
So you deliver your master plan through the, of course, through the avenue of musical theater, the only option that Beige really has as you sort of break into performance here. Go ahead and, I guess, make a performance check to try to sort of sell them. Veda the Hound will give you advantage, as they always do.
Yeah, obviously Veda is like howling backups, like, of course. Like
Veda's doing
maybe a
full
little dance
auto-tune
number
in the background. It's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah. Maybe throwing up instruments, for Beach to catch and switching. Yeah, anyway.
Oh yeah, it's good
A
stuff.
metronome tail wag.
There you go.
21.
With the 21, you put on this sort of very, very impressive kind of pitch of what to do next. The Arcanist is just like eyes wide, head back a little bit, just aghast that this is the chosen method. You get done, and Sable, the Cantonac, claps a little bit, and then nobody else claps and slows down a little bit and goes, it was very impressive. As the others are sort of like nodding on, the Arcanist goes, yeah, certainly sounds like an interesting plan. We haven't found what we were looking for here, so being able to look somewhere else would be a great boon for us, and we can spare mages to go down below, especially now that most of us are on the mend, because inexplicably, days of injuries have been healed by an 8-hour rest without having to keep that many watches.
It's so weird.
It's
Wow.
really strange. We are ready to... Certainly then. Yes, I think that could be arranged. We can't part with everyone, but a good portion of us could go down below. I am remiss to... And they look back to Sable, and Sable goes, oh no. And they go, well, if you're with me. Sable goes, no. And the Arcanist goes, it won't even be that bad. Nobody else even knows what to look for. And Sable like, yeah, we'll come too. And Sable starts to like, kunk, 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 make their way over this sort of large... animated armor kind of figure, such as they are, and this group starts to like grab bags. You see a remarkable number of these people are carrying like no survival gear, but just have like big scroll cases over their shoulders and things. You see that whereas the Arcanist is pretty straight up, like, staff in hand, bright dragonborn coloration. Wisteria is sort of picks through and has, like, 4 books that they bring with them, the sort of, like, with, like, the kind of, like, school, when they, like, belt them together so that they don't have to carry them individually. And you get the sense that it is mostly Wisteria and Sable who start to, like, pull people in, and you're starting to get the divide of the, like, research mages, like your friend Corvain, and the, like, war mages that are here to protect other people. And the war mages kind of take priority in this moment and start calling things out and moving downwards. Orax will say, and if you want your friend Corvain to come, you're going to have to go get him. He hasn't left the room since you all sent him into that room with all the journals.
Oh. Okay, yeah. We'll
and
check
he checks
in.
his watch because he got a text notification. Very professional. And so with I think maybe the first time anybody's recruited an ally via song and dance routine on our on the cast here, I'm pretty impressed. And our group reconvenes at the sort of forward camp, which will be the Viscount Faraday's Malaran's camp. It has a couple of now abandoned tents. It has a fire that has been kept burning, and a good number of people that are kind of watching and keeping an eye out. As we get through these last few things, I will say, Hilver, you are our kind of our last pin here. You are kind of attending to the needs of the crew that survived the attack on the ship up above. Let's kick things off with a medicine check, just so I know what the kind of ceiling of what the floor of this interaction is, right? What's the baseline you're working from?
Yeah. Well, I think for most of it too, he's kind of like going amongst them, finding like the most like fatally wounded or like grievously injured, and like kind of like doling out the hands of healing for them, just so that they're like not on death's door anymore, and setting up like a triage clinic so they can kind of like sit there, and recounting how like the Viscount was basically using Morris as like a bargaining chip against us and was so inflexible, and that like these groups are a lot more welcoming and would be good, like mentioning to like the one that was like kind of like a motley crew of like various people, that there are like other places for them to go now, that they're kind of like not everything's all lost, and they can like either join these crews or head back up above once they've kind of like healed up and are ready to travel.
All right, so let's start with the medicine, and then we'll do persuasion and see how it kind of levels out.
All right, that is a 27.
Dang, that's incredible. Yeah, you managed to. You are setting bones, getting people up and moving. You managed to like scrape a collection together for a couple of the people that are injured enough that they are not going to be able to continue, people that are going back up to go live probably just like a normal life. You manage to scrounge together. You watch as a bunch of them like scrounge together a diamond, and like one cleric who accompanied on this trip just to do this comes down and like brings somebody who died back to life. You manage to really kind of whip them into shape. They meeting with a couple of the people from the ship up above. You end up with the better part of 20 or 30 of these people working together. Go ahead and make that persuasion check now. I'll give you advantage because you were sort of what the cheese around this pill is the medical help, right? Yeah. And then you're saying, and also come help us. Sorry, we killed your boss. XOXO, gossip girl. Like
keeping guidance on myself for persuasion this whole time, so I can kind of like give them a little bit of a bedside manner too. Wait, where did the D4 go?
Which is absolutely necessary because you are wearing an iron mask.
So scary.
Yeah. You couldn't look scarier if you really woke up this morning to try to go look scary.
Real plague doctor shit. Like, why do you look like a crow?
There you go.
Why do you look like a crow? I don't need that.
You got herbs stuffed in that beak? What are we doing?
Yeah.
So that's an 18 minus 2 for a 16 total on the persuasion.
16, is that with bless and everything?
With the guidance, yeah.
Respectable. You certainly don't get everybody with a 16, but you quickly get a pretty decent-sized group. Basically, you see there is a split in the survivors, and they kind of fall along those lines. No one's hostile towards you for what you did. They understand that the Viscount, that's what a 15 mainly gets you, is, you don't have a hostile and a friendly group. You have a very friendly group and a neutral to friendly group. The neutral to friendly group is trying to pressure everybody to leave. And that's the conversation that you kind of keep endlessly overhearing. You see one of their number, a Arakakra, which is like sort of bird person named Soroyet, is continuously saying like every moment that we are not going back to Edifice to apologize increases the chances that we are not invited back to apologize. And sort of on the other side, you have one of the like workmen of the ship, a gentleman named Victor Cooper, who is kind of endlessly like, they aren't taking us back. Ships don't get shot down. Viscounts don't die. They go missing. They are unfortunately lost during research. They're not taking us back. We live out here now. And that argument eventually just splits. The one group goes off with their own thing. They're going to try to contact Edifice in the next few days and see if they can't find some way to return home. The rest of the group are like, we live out here now. We can't go back. If we do go back, they'll probably kill us to keep this story on the DL. We aren't doing it. And so you managed to get about half of them. Victor Cooper as kind of their impromptu lead, who agree to sign on with you and push down below. And so the next time that we zoom in on the Viscount Faraday Malarian's camp, it is the busiest it has ever been. There is not the small group of 30 or 40 here trying to keep patrols and find their way inside and do research. There is the business end of 150 or so people here, all kind of crowded around to the point that bodies have been cleared out of that front area to the surgery, and this group spills into the surgery, this building that not that long ago everybody was terrified of. What are you all kind of doing as you are surrounded now by hopefully allies, people that are at least aligned in their goals? They're going to push down below with you to see what there is to be seen at the bottom of the reliquary.
I teach them the song.
Okay. Beach, go ahead and make a
Walk the
performance
bottom
check
line.
as you start to like really try to get them united here. I think this is actually going to be you're essentially teaching them all like a ruck march song.
21.
A
It's another
21.
I rolled the same roll twice in a row.
It speaks to the catchiness of the tune and the fact that you've made like a solid marching song that not that long after Walk the Bottom Line has started to really spread as this kind of, we're gonna have to figure out off in the interim what this like what's the, I'm trying to think of the sort of equivalent to like I don't know what you call those. It's definitely one of a cadence. It's definitely one of those. And you start to watch Beige take a very unconventional approach, and like a healthy group of these people are like doing warm-ups with Beige to get ready to go down below, and a little bit of a sense of teamwork starting to build on kind of the edges, especially with the angle Harold took earlier. You're starting to kind of get that lift. You see a couple other crewmates from the Storm's Call, Renault's ship. A couple of the crewmates have come down and are starting to make their way around, and you see a very nervous, kind of heavy-set noble with red hair, who you've seen a few times now, who is in, like, plate armor made for somebody with a BMI of 42, so it's like this big metal pot belly of plate armor, and he's like, it's exactly how I imagined it. Just sort of looking around, ready, it seems, to go on an adventure. Hopefully not a lethal one. Who else is up to what else in this time? And we don't need to do, if you don't have anything, that's okay. I was just wondering.
I was gonna say there's a course that only people from the bottom line are allowed to sing from your song.
It's a call and response. We do the response when they do the call.
Oh, and I actually really like that. It's a call and response, and it's also to make sure that everybody knows where you all are. Right, it has that helpful kind of signal rallying point aspect. Right, anybody else doing any other kind of like closing work before we push down below?
I do have a thing I want you to.
Yeah, of course.
I am not the one that should make this list because it's probably high in intelligence.
Oh no.
But I say, hey, does someone want to make a list of like groups like where each person goes, like I know we're bottom line, we're going bottom. who's like level above us and who's level above us, kind of like that.
Should we?
I don't know the power of everyone and strength and all that.
Yeah. And if the groups themselves, they have all their like respective leaders, and if we're leaving like a couple of each group at each level, they might be able to kind of like have choice picks for each to leave behind too.
Yeah.
Do choice picks and ask the leaders to get a tally of items or things that people have a claim on. We're going to collect all of them, so that way there's not somebody saying, "Oh, I definitely had a belt of giant strength. That's something that I really needed."
Okay.
So that we have it listed out, so we can do both of those things at once.
I like that. Okay, so you get together kind of the heavy hitters here. So that's the Arcanist, Renault Galler, Terret, Oben, Victor, and Soroyet will kind of all on their respective groups. So you managed to sort of get a little bit of a meeting group together here. And so we kind of cut in on, I think, sort of a war meeting, the last one before you push down. We have this kind of like around that table that the Viscount had been making his own plans around. We end up with this sort of kind of elite group chatting out what each of their groups are looking for. Unsurprisingly, most of the groups are also just looking for money. They say they're looking for like magic items they can sell. They're looking for precious items that they can sell. And so eventually the divide that emerges is the groups from up top are all just here for the cash. Only a couple are here for like specific equipment and things that they can find or have some legend attached. Oben Sallow, the lizard folk, has heard a rumor that in their own research that the Vemeral seemed to be able to produce like infinite food down here, and is trying to figure out how they did that. So they are somebody with like a specific goal, so that gets noted down. But most of the others are just like, I want to fill my bag and I want to leave. And they just literally haven't been able to do that yet because things have been picked so clean. Galler is just looking for the map. The rest of the crew is looking for money and ways to sort of fund their trip, especially now that they realize the Viscount will not be paying them upon his safe return, because he is very much dead. And the Arcanist reminds you of what they are looking for. And they say, any arcane text that we can get and bring back would be much appreciated and a great sign of faith. We need not the money and treasures of this place, unless you, I suppose if you find something especially related to arcane tasks that would be beneficial for us.
I looked at the captain. You know, Viscount can still pay ya. We can, you can have. We just need the key for the ship. You can have his body and sell those robotic pieces.
I guess if they like bring his body back and revive him, he'll be back and technically healthy and able to pay him.
I had assumed,
Don't bring him
the
back.
captain pipes up and says, I'd assumed that you all, and looks at Harold and Beige because they know the nature of your being here and the exorbitant fee attached to it. I assumed that you all would not be willing to part with that particular piece of machinery.
Beach already has like price tags on them. He's like,
It sounds like I've assumed. I'm happy to look for my own findings. I appreciate the offer, but that is yours. No need. It's also worth a lot, and if I sell it, it's going to make it look like I murdered the Viscount, and that's going to make my life really hard back on Leviathan. So while I do appreciate it, I cannot answer the questions that would be asked of me in the days that followed me selling it. They would say, oh, hey, that looks kind of like the Viscount's torso and dead body and head. And I would go, what? No.
Similar but not related.
this whole thing.
That is weird that it looks like his custom suit. So
weird.
I'm quite all right with you all taking it, but I do appreciate the offer, truly. Yes.
All right. I think we got to go over some ground rules here. We've already got sort of our basic team comp going.
Sable
we got
goes,
mages set up.
If you find a big sword, need a new one.
That is the point that I'm going to make next. I need to make one thing abundantly clear to everybody. There will be a big sword. You cannot use it. It is the one of
Sable
a couple things that we
visibly
just can't
deflates.
use. There might be more, but there's one for sure that you can't touch. There's a set of 3 magic items that each of the Vemeral, the people that were housed here, utilized. There's the bow. I go on and on. I talk about it. We've already retrieved the bow, but the two other are still large. If you touch it, it will possess you. Your soul will be rent from your body. You'll be taken over by one of the Vemeral. Go ahead. What's up?
Or it'll explode you.
Or it'll explode you if you're not strong enough. So don't do it. There's no winning. There's no winning when it comes to touching these items. If you see one of those items, put on a set of gloves and put it into a bag of holding, whatever, but don't touch it. And make sure everybody knows not to touch those items. And I hold up the portraits to say they look like this.
Wow, all right. So you hold up
weapons.
the portraits to give an idea of what the various weapons are going to look like. Okay, I am going to need you to make a persuasion check to try to get them to listen to you.
Wonder if it would take over Sable. He's not a robot.
You can ask Sable.
I got a 23.
Sable, are you a robot?
Sable goes, no, I am not a robot. I am not a construct either.
But are you a robot?
Totally different.
No. The Arcanist pipes up and goes, no, Sable is a Cantonax. Sable is a on their second go around the wheel, we'll say. And Sable goes, I owed a long lifetime of fealty to one of the great dragons, and I died before I finished it. They did not take kindly to my shirking my duties, so now I am this. And they gesture to this kind of like animated armor body that they inhabit. So
Sort of
I
a
will be
forced
careful
revenant
not to
situation.
touch it.
You probably shouldn't touch it. Then.
I was quite happy to have my chance to finish my unfinished business. This is no
That's
great
fair.
ill to
You actually
me.
probably really shouldn't touch it because you're probably already primed to be a Venerax.
Yeah, Vemeral.
It's a good point.
Vemeral.
I'll stay away.
With
that 20, you
so-
see everybody kind of like nods and starts to like go around. You see a couple of them like pass messages to some of their kind of like lieutenants and whatnot who start to go out and tell people to watch out for a stone, like a stone and wooden hammer, a bronze sword, and they even warn them about the bow in case something happens. And they say like, whatever happens, just don't touch it. If you see it and you have to touch it with a pole, touch it with a 10-foot stick,
Yeah.
but do not touch those items under any circumstances, and hopefully everybody will listen.
And the other thing I needed to touch on is a little bit more ghoulish. There are simply not enough diamonds to go around here. By my count, there's maybe a few left. These things are experimenting on the bodies of the people that are taken.
Could somebody fix that? Because it just messed up all the cameras. Hi, everybody.
Yes.
Sorry about that. We just had a small technical snafu. Hey, there we go. Back to center. So not enough diamonds to go around.
If somebody's taken and they're still alive, maybe, and you don't really have hope of getting them back, or if they're killed and they're dragging the body away, burn them. They will come back to haunt us. You gotta make sure the job is done. We're not bringing them back anyways. Make sure they can't come back as some fucked up zombie. That's it. There's going to be a mage on each team. The mages, I think, are going to be primarily the ones that throw those firebolt at the corpses. But it's kind of got to happen.
So you recount what you saw in the surgery. Those bodies like stitched back together, coming back to life.
I even have Calroy come in. I'm like, show him.
Oh, right. Calroy sort of begrudgingly like unbuttons his shirt and like pulls it down, and they all see these huge scars that go out around, and you can now see, now that he has healed somewhat and they aren't so inflamed, he has these like big metal like reinforcements that you see are on his shoulders and on his elbows. And he's like, I was awake the whole time. And they're all
And
like,
he was lucky. The other ones were all dead and their guts were all pulled out. It was awful. He was the lucky one. So again, burn the bodies before they get taken.
Calroy leans into you, to your ear, and goes, I should leave off that it gave me incredible abilities, right? Okay, great. Just checking.
Don't
Just
know
checking.
about that.
He like nods. Yeah, I know. I figured. As they all sort of like go back and nod and like start talking to each other. That one, you don't need to roll a persuasion check. Essentially, the choice that goes around very quickly is like, rather be dead. Great, cool. A better solution.
Yeah, I guess the alternative to the grim loss is hopefully a grim gain as well, and that like the spa area we were at did have one of these Bastille things, which had a ancient survivor trapped within it, and there's possibly 2 others out there. They are very potent machines, so it would be good to kind of get in contact with us and for us to deal with them and hopefully extract the people. And otherwise, those are like high priority kind of like foes that should be avoided, and hopefully won't get like getting into our ranks or anything.
Okay. I think, unless anybody has anything else, a good final warning. If you run into something too big, start singing that chant, wait to hear our voices, and call us over. Don't try and do that unless you have the metal to get it done, okay? So, with all that being what it is, as you guys reconvene, do we have any closing business before the push below begins?
As we begin to descend, don't forget to do your donations to the future widows of all those we've lost so far. You see some, like, powder monkey wandering around. Cheryl.
You all turn
going around.
and see Bartholomew in a full head-to-toe costume. He has a prosthetic nose. He has on glasses. You don't know where he got them. He has, like, a spirit gum beard attached onto his and hair dye in. Go ahead and make a deception check.
And a black eye. That will be explained later.
Okay.
Well, he's been gone for a bit. He said, what check?
Make a deception check as you try to, like, collect a Widows of War fund.
27.
27. At the end of this, Bartholomew has a heavy bag of coins. A couple of magic items. There's just, like, there's, like, a dagger in there. Just things that have been found. You sort of, like, sling that over your shoulder, and you all watch Bartholomew make his way back over to the rest of you and drop this heavy bag of coins into the bag of holding.
Well, hello, comrades. It's been a while. I don't know what day it is anymore.
Neither do I.
Well, yes. I've been trying to gather some extra coin during y'all's adventures, and I don't know what and how long I've been knocked unconscious as I was gathering and doing my religious ceremonies. And, well, I don't think I'm ever going to ever use this. And he pauses for a second before he says the word and draws it out, and he spells out the hair.
The hair.
That
Fickle spirit of change.
due to seeing one of the creatures down here, and it knocked me down the stairs and unconscious.
We cut to a scene earlier of Bartholomew at the top of the staircase, like, ministering a small speech, and then hearing, like, a pebble get kicked, turning around, and the most horrifying thing he's ever seen in his life. In the middle of a humongous dead desert, in the center of an subterranean cavern carved below ground, lit by nothing but burning fires and blue ethereal flame, he just sees this hair, this big, gangly rabbit course of hair, and it jumps and kicks him in the chest, and he falls down the staircase as we cut back down below. All right. Very cool. Very
You know, it's
fun.
bound to happen. You got a lot more to fall back on, so it's not a huge deal.
Well, let's hop on back to it.
Yeah.
What?
As you guys are making your sort of final group of preparations, a version of your friend, Corvain Vemelide, emerges, who has clearly not slept since the last time that you saw him. It's a little hard to tell when a dragon, they don't exactly get bags under their eyes, but his scales do not quite have the shine and sheen that you would like to see, and his eyes are a little crazed as he sort of wanders his way out and goes, "Oh, good, I was hoping to catch you all before you departed. I had heard that you had some new and exciting scheme. You're going down below, correct?" Fantastic. You
That's the
told
plan.
me to investigate, and he holds up a stack of translation papers that is like this thick. It is a gigantic heap of papers, and he goes, "I have been at work," and he hands it to one of the sort of like nearby mages who like takes it and starts walking over to where Orax is working so that this can be like bound and kept safe. He says, I found some account of the items that you are looking for, the blade, the sword, the hammer, and the bow. The sword and shield are a paired group of items, going off of the notes that it would seem, for the record, the witch had a name. Adelind. Adelind of the Votai. The Votai were the servants of the Vemeral. They were their army, the people that signed on them. But then, and he starts to like pull that stack apart and show you a like sequence of pages. You saw that some of them had these like sketches and designs, and he shows you some that are simple new weapons and armor designs. And eventually they start to turn kind of surgical and eventually really strange, showing like the bending of limbs over time, and you start to see this like twisting descent. And he goes, I think it's them. I think these creatures are the Votai. Down here all this time, trying to make themselves sharper blades for their masters. They return to the theme again and again and again and again as they continue. Eventually, but it's besides the point. I wanted to warn you. 2 groups emerge towards the end. One, just before things get really strange, before the doors are sealed, she starts writing about the chorus. She repeats it many, many times, the chorus. The chorus moves forward. Countless iterations and studies have brought us here. If only Relic had accepted our gifts. She had this assistant companion named Relic that they kidnapped, who worked with them for some time before eventually dying of old age, and she kept his skull with her. She said that she would speak to it, but the chorus comes up again and again. It sings, at last it sings. All hear it now, our pale imitations, nothing, shadows on a wall. And then it just continues from there. A few final lines seem to indicate that something worked. I don't know what. Be careful of that song. Some of the people that heard it too many times in her notes start to change. Their capacity to control themselves gets thin, and they begin to show effects. I think too much exposure is how you get that. Do you remember the wall with the creatures growing inside? I think the two things are connected. I think it brings physical change. The song does.
How many exposures?
Her responses to it are vague. In some cases, 3. In others, more, 5 or 6. No accounts have more than 7.
Is this like... Harold, should we get you some, like, new magical earplugs then, maybe, heading down?
I think I just won't touch any magic items for the foreseeable future. I heard it a few times, yeah.
Good thing we have our own song to drown it right out.
Yeah, exactly. With the sound of our soldiers behind us, I won't even hear their chant. I won't hear the chorus at all.
Yeah. And one more thing. Your suspicions proved correct. She gets very frustrated. At one point, before the doors were sealed, the song holds no sway over corpses, was her note. The undead seem to not. They can sing it and hear it, but she keeps speaking of how it has no sway. I'm not sure what she means.
Maybe it's somehow connected to the actual souls residing in those bodies, then. If the undead are already soulless, there's maybe nothing there for it to latch onto.
It's in the same breath that she speaks about the weapons and how those who have heard the song can use them and be vessels. She says the undead, those that have died, cannot.
Maybe the chorus is meant to bring back somebody else. Same way the weapons bring back the Vemeral. Of course, could bring back the old Emperor.
I hope not. Many people consider the death of Baliar Deathwoken a fluke, a lucky shot, essentially. So, But that's what I know. And for the record, I have a document that I can send you all after the game of his translation, such as it is. That's all. I just wanted to warn you before you proceeded. Break a leg, everybody.
So-
as he sort of turns very much the scholar, he goes, great, and starts to shut the big heavy safe door.
You're not coming?
No, absolutely
Please get some rest and eat some good food before you head back to the books then.
not. Why? And he fully gets a nosebleed. He's like, why would I do that? This small to translate.
Yes,
Hit the
and you
spa
will
free
do.
of charge.
Yeah. You don't want to make mistakes in your translations, and you want to hit them with fresh energy. That's what they deserve, right? Is a
Fair.
good rest.
He will
Great.
kind of wander off. You save him from some small portion that this Call of Cthulhu mythos tome would inflict on his brain if he went on undisturbed. All right. With that, your forces allied and now gathered together. It is time to push down. So I will ask, what is the approach here? So it is going to be we're going to borrow a little bit of a 4th edition concept here, so everybody keep your jets out there. What is the approach that you all are going to take here? You're each going to make a skill check to sort of narrate how you are helping with this push. Got a couple of goals though, so number 1, right, you're listening for that sound, right, for somebody banging in the hopes that you can go find whoever that is. That's a good primary. And then the secondary goal is to just keep pace and keep pushing down below.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me try to pull up my map here. Okay. And we are starting from. Okay. Got too many notes to get together. Good gravy. Hello?
Hello.
Google Drive is saying you don't get to look at that, nerd. All right, cool. So you all sort of gather together here and get ready to push down below. The temple is sort of right to the side of where you are now, and you are kind of looking further down. You see the tower, which you've had described to you a few times. That sort of spanning tower is before you. Below that, you see this sort of large stone building covered in grotesques, like these carvings that are clearly meant to evoke fearful, kind of grim expressions. Below that, another kind of simple doorway, something kind of carved of dark stone, and then beneath that, the cathedral. So, as we proceed, I'm going to say feel free to step in at any moment that you feel your character would get involved. You guys are going to sort of assemble for the push here. So you all are in the lead, and I get the sense you're kind of stacking from most experienced to least experienced. So the kind of outsider groups are all the way to the back. You don't want them as much as cannon fodder, am I correct?
I think the anchor in the back would still be an experienced group. So that could be probably the crew of the ship that we've commandeered.
Great, yeah.
They'll pull up the very end.
Yeah, not necessarily the most experienced, but very heavily armed. And they can mostly provide covering fire. And so they kind of fill out the back as you all make this long channel. You organize yourselves into ranks very quickly. A bunch of the mages speak to each other and organize their own plan, and you watch as several of them lift off of the ground and start to sail up above to kind of fly it alongside, while others move in various areas. You see a couple of the mages of Remgastelon begin to lift, and skeletons of their own are summoned. One of them cuts the top of their hand, and a big gorilla demon, a big Balgura, falls down next to him, gets low, running up ready to move with the front of you all to smash through any doorways that kind of block your path as you proceed. Okay.
So first, I think, is going to be Harold. This is a preparatory action. His gear is named what it is, partially because the cloak, the blue cloak that hangs off the back, is a heraldic flag. So it comes down into the 2 triangle points, and he slides that over a spear cinches it on and casts light on it, and there's a bunch of like sigils and runes along the side that glow, and he holds that in front at the very front of the group so people can see where the front is, and he's got that lifted up high.
All right.
And that will be his assistance.
And what check are you trying to roll for that?
This is going to be like a persuasion.
Yeah, all right. Makes sense to
I'm
me.
keeping people feeling good.
Yeah, go ahead and make a persuasion check to try to be kind of the standard bearer as we continue here.
That's another natural 20.
Oh my god!
Wow.
With another nat 20, the group, that'll count for 2 successes. You move to the front, these creatures get summoned, and you boom, like bring this standard up that begins to glow and lift it overhead, and the group begins to, like, in tune with Beach's song, move into like a walk to a light jog to that like increasing push as they make their way down. Up ahead, you begin to see, as you all are swinging downward, you see something that maybe at this point you've begun to grow accustomed to being a bad sign. You watch the skeletons cleaning down below start to catacombs and disappearing into the holes in the walls. They begin to head off to different areas. And just a few moments later, from those same spaces as you are pushing down, begin to emerge what you now know are the Votai, servants of the Vemeral who have gone undeterred, who have warped their bodies and changed their minds in ways uncountable, so that they can serve as readily in death as they did in life. Begin to swarm up along the wall. Immediately, the flying mages begin to throw like crowd control spells. You guys quickly hit the first wave at the front of them and are held back as that mage lets out a whistle, and you begin to watch that Balgura like begins to sprint ahead, like throwing its fists in. You watch as it picks up one of those ordinators in heavy armor and just like hurls it across into the space, over into the darkness, and it shatters through the front line as you all continue to push ahead. Who's up next? It can be anybody.
All right, I guess especially with like the toxins that they're creating, I want to be trying to like create some like antidotes along the way, like grabbing some of the like the funguses, mosses and stuff here, and trying to create some like little poultices to like hand out for people, so that like in the thick of it they won't be sort of like locked down and stranded with the poisons and paralysis.
Great. Hilbert.
And trying to hand out that to everyone.
Absolutely. Go ahead and make a medicine check. Hilver, you have been preparing for this already, gathering what herbal remedies you could, grabbing things from the mages, from whatever alchemists you could get a hold of, and you basically have like antitoxins, like an incredible array of them. And you are, while everybody else is just running towards the front, our monk is like darting towards the back, towards the front, out towards the front, up the side. At one point, we literally watch as you like full sprint dash, jumping into the air to catch a mage that has just been paralyzed, which is the result of a medicine check.
All right, 19 plus 11 for 30.
30. That's exactly as I narrate. As one of them is going to fall paralyzed, definitely to their death, we just see a blur as Hilver tackles them, falls down, feeds them a potion, and just like throws them back up in the air like you're throwing a kid into a pool, and they whoop, take back off and go back into action. You all continuing to delve down, you pass that first doorway. You see one of these kind of like nondescript halls and this large kind of grotesque carved front facade of a building. As you begin to make your way past, the front door of it slams open, and a group, like a tight formation of these creatures, moves out. You see at the front of them are like 3 ordinators trying to push and like pin you guys up against the stairwells that you cannot proceed down, and to protect where they are coming from behind. Who wants to take next as you find this next obstacle in your path?
Beach is singing. He's got his aura. He's flying. He's got Veda. There are many interesting things about him.
There are many interesting things about Beach. So what of those things are you using to try to like address the situation?
Probably the aura, I feel like, is the, like, my what is it called? The censor.
censor?
That's what it's called.
Oh, okay. So as you were like flying over,
I thought you meant like aura.
Like aura?
I was like,
No, I mean,
oh,
I
sex
meant
appeal.
that.
No, yeah. You all watch as Bij like lights this censer and incense kind of starts to burn, filling everybody's noses with this like very pleasant smell. As Bij kind of forges ahead, you begin to see people getting whipped up into the moment, not wanting to shirk away, not wanting to look like idiots in front of Bij. Go ahead and give me a persuasion check with advantage because you are burning your censer. You begin
25.
25.
Nice. The first one wasn't good, so this one's good.
As the ordinators like keep pushing ahead and try to kind of pin you guys up against the wall just long enough to make a little bit of a gap, you manage to sort of get a little bit of a focused group going, and you watch as the most experienced with sort of dealing with being outgunned this way, these poor creatures arrive just in time for the crew of the Storm's Call to be coming up, and with that sort of rallying cry behind them, nobody doesn't want to be embarrassed in front of Bij as bad as Calroy, and you begin to watch as like mechanically Calroy is like firing arrows, like holding them down in their own positions, as Renee Mellet in this sort of like heavy armor is running up. You see that she wields a large like morning star in one hand and a shield in the other. She runs up and like kicks one of the Ordinator's shields back and slams down as they start to kind of lift up and over. Malcolm White in the back has one of the crystals from the ship in his hand and a little bit of sympathetic magic. You watch as he holds out his hand and like 6 of these creatures that were forming this line lift up into the air, being levitated, just like floating with no way to control where they're going, trying to like swim to walls, and are full peppered with arrows. And you push past your next obstacle, continuing down below. Okay. As you continue forward, swinging down along the side, you approach sort of one of the only true unknowns here, that kind of simple, squared-off doorway of that darker stone, something that looked a little bit more recent, like it had been constructed later. As you make your way down there, hearing this like thrumming sound coming out of it. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but 1,000,000 years ago, you guys rolled a check to see if you could hear anything before anyone else had been into this place. And you could swear you could hear something in the distance. And now it's fairly loud. Echoing out of that chamber, you hear the song, the melody, quite loud, echoing down its many hallways, almost a soft glow coming from the back. And as you move closer, you begin to hear it build and build until there's a moment of quiet, and then this wave of sound emerges as it flares, a visible wall of force almost washing over you all, this profound effect. Who takes this one and manages to make some kind of distraction or otherwise save the day?
So during this whole time, Bartholomew actually has been doing a little religious ceremony of Boone, choosing to do that while also casting like heroism on anyone that he can touch or guidance, and has also had, by doing this tale, also gave everybody a temporary HP of 12.
Nice, temporary HP of 12.
What was the official?
Yeah, so in that case, if it's like this, I'll say it's either persuasion, deception, or religion, given Bartholomew's kind of character. You tell me what you're rolling.
All right. Not religion.
There you go. So it's either persuasion or deception. I leave that up to you.
And that's a 29.
A 29. It turns out, if you're good enough at it and you've got the holy symbol, kind of doesn't matter if you mean it. As you're sort of chanting this out, you all watch like your footfalls falling into place as this wave passes over you. You are expecting, you've experienced this before. Hilver has shrugged it off barely a few times. Harold has failed it twice, had this effect go over his mind, and you've seen what it can do, the way that it can grip people's minds as the wave billows out over the crowd. You fear for a moment that you are going to watch people go catatonic and limp and begin to follow the commands of this song. But instead, Bartholomew's sermon gets louder and louder as he begins to sort of yell to the words of boon and call to the god of luck and adventure to help you in these moments. And as that kind of ripples throughout the crowd, you watch a few people do stop and sort of go a little catatonic, like they're moving in that direction, but they are quickly jostled out of it as they are bumped by like 15 people running by them, and they are just sort of dragged along. The few people who look like they are going to carry in have somebody run by and grab them by the back of the shirt and just like throw them forward. Somebody else reaches over, covers their ears, and starts running while holding their head, so all they can do is also run with their head kind of pulling them ahead forward. This group oddly prepared for the threat of what would have been a pretty nasty experience otherwise. A couple of people do wander and maybe don't have somebody to save them, to stop them, but who knows? Maybe they'll be fine. As you all kind of continue to make your way down, you approach the front of this great black stone cathedral. The distant sort of thrumming that you've been hearing coming from that side, and also feeling it under your feet like some great bass baritone traveling through the ground. Lemon, as you approach this massive door, titanic in size, this locked facade with intricate carvings down the sides, a motif you are all too familiar with. It is the Vemeral, one with hammer, one with bow, one with sword and shield, surrounded by slain enemies and praying devotees carved into the front. What do you do to take up the end here? I can't believe nobody failed the checks.
You said there's a locked door?
Yeah, it's the final obstacle is this like massive stone door. That Balgura was probably the plan for this, but is long dead up the stairs, having held back that initial charge.
Alright. I picked the locks before. I'll pick this one too. Thinking back to how we unlocked the first door to get into this whole place.
You watch as quickly the group forms into a shield wall. People like throwing back other creatures, suppressive fire coming from all directions, and Lemon runs up and slides up to the door. It's just starting to get to work on this lock.
Okay. And I do. I'll cast Identify just to see if there's anything really specific with this door.
Okay, yeah. I'm just going to have that give you advantage, basically. As you run up and cast Identify, you start to get, like, the download on what is going on with this door, getting feedback about the locking mechanism and how things tie in and work together.
Sleight of hand check for this?
Yeah, sleight of hand with advantage.
I need the advantage. 24.
24. As you like start to work mechanically, hearing tumblers click into place, the last one latches. That Identify doing its job. You don't have the actual key. As a trap leans in, you all watch as, without skipping a beat, Lemon leans, pulls his gun, fires, and you watch as this huge like guillotine axe that was falling towards the door is knocked off course by the bullet and sticks like 6 inches behind him into the ground as he manages to pivot, and the door, behind the surging power of the rest of the group, begins to swing open. This great breath of air fills the space, this great sound, this smell of dusty, stale, untouched air flooding back into your own faces, surrounded by enemies and adversaries, some of whom are starting to scatter off as the group begins to kind of pour in. You guys in the front begin to make your way down just in time to hear what was the signal for when L43 started moving.
I think that it is a pause in our war chant that ripples up through to us that L4th is on his way. So the music gives out from our group. So then we know he's coming.
So as you all are pushing, we see in the distance L43, the minute the door opens, who knows how he even knows. Someone's in the middle of speaking to them up top. L43 like, well, that's... and just sprints in an impossible dash, boom, 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 boom. We see them like cutting through the group we've seen before, making their way around. They get to the top of that area where everybody introduced and just leap, falling like 90 feet down onto the garden, sprinting forward, leaping ahead. The back of the group sees them, stops the song for like a 5 beat, and then continues, and it whips down and around until eventually this strange, this is the coolest, weirdest thing you've ever described. As you're standing there, all of a sudden you just hear a wave of silence. This like pause in the melody hits you all, and about 2 minutes later, you begin to watch people furiously parting out of the way for fear of whatever injury they may incur if they are not fast enough. And you watch as bright bronze, brassy copper coloration, L43, now with much like where Lemon is usually gun in either hand, you see that he is riding sort of like, I think the term is like dragoon. He has like revolver in his left hand, sword in his right, and is sprinting down through the crowd towards the front.
It does sound like a train coming through, the thuzz of the chugging.
It does. This sort of terrifying thump, 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 thump of his beats as people get out of the way. You see like one person is not fast enough and is sent like spinning over as they fall. L43 sprints by, doesn't stop to say a word, but you do watch as they turn and just give a little like like a single affirmative face, like good job, and then disappears off into the darkness. You watch as you just start to see bursts of light and fire from the gun as it fires off, and you are just seeing creatures swarming on the walls and on the interior, and hearing sounds of combat as you all also get ready to push forward into whatever lays below. And at that exact same time, not even in that deep, just off to the right of where you are, you look and see sort of in the echoing, twisting, you see these like columns that split apart the inside. You hear thung, 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 coming off from the right, and as in front of you L43 is locked in combat, we see a figure that our players have not seen for just a few scant episodes. You watch as thung, emerging out of the darkness. It's not its footsteps you're hearing. Massive greatsword across its shoulders. You see another Bastille, not glowing blue, but glowing red, making its way through the crowd towards the front. And that is where we're going to pick up next week with your second fight with the Bastille in this opening area. I can't believe how well your master plan has gone. Absolutely awesome. We are well and truly into the action now. That thing I said where I didn't know if we were halfway or 2/3 of the way through. We are 2/3 of the way through Song of the Reliquary. So stay posted. And thank you guys so much for playing. This was really fun. I love skill challenges. They are one of my favorite kind of oddball fun mechanics. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. You can tune in to 3 streams here at Foolhardy Press. They all start at 7:30 p.m. On Sundays, you can catch Game Masters Masters of Games, where Spencer, Michael, and I play games we've already mastered or feel like we need to. We're playing Baldur's Gate right now. On Mondays, you can catch The Party Makes Things Worse. Song of the Reliquary is our current game. It's in the D&D system. We're having a blast. At least I am. I don't want to speak for everybody. I don't know. Beach has the robot dog. How bad can it be going, really? And then, of course, on Tuesdays, you can catch DM Writer's Room, where Spencer, Michael, and I demystify the DMing process by coming up with monsters, magic items, dungeons, and all kinds of things live for D&D and other games as we've kind of continued. You can check out our one-page RPGs on itch.io, including Resonance, our most recent one, and you can check out our adventures on Drive-Thru RPG, including a very recent addition to the family there, the Void's Eye Observatory, a long-beloved project. Check us out on TikTok, and check us out on Instagram, where Spencer makes all kinds of good stuff. Check us out on YouTube, where you can catch the VODs for these shows and other videos that we work on. A lot of interesting, pretty exciting things the next few weeks, next few months coming up over there, so keep your eye out. And check out on Spotify our last campaign, The Prince of Charming, fully edited with ums, ahs, likes, and rules lookups cut out, is available there. Is definitely our recommended experience, as much as we appreciate. Listen, if you want to listen to the show as it comes out on Spotify and then go back and like and watch all of the YouTube, I mean, I'm not going to say no. So that is our adaptation of our 9-episode series. Spencer's working on editing those as we continue, so you will be able to follow along with that like you're experiencing it for the very first time. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.
Bye.